Garadas exists in a distant realm separate from the familiar world of humans, situated in a universe entirely foreign to our own. The origin of the planet remains a mystery, as it is not documented in any historical records and is unknown to all inhabitants of this world. Garadas is significantly larger than Earth, with twice the mass of our planet. Garadas is a world divided between the peaceful continent of Muninia in the east and the eerie Lamnadras in the west, with a clear distinction between sea and land. This reality was brought into existence by the collaboration of the 12 gods. In the lands of Muninia, 7 distinct races wander, each abiding by their own customs and principles as they navigate through life. Despite their differences, they all share one commonality: they each follow their own leader. The gods have selected 7 individuals whose lives have remained untainted and virtuous, standing out from the rest who have stumbled and erred, as these 7 have only achieved greatness. The 7 kings of Garadas were fated to unite the world in peace and coexist harmoniously. In the realm of Garadas, 12 united gods created a world of perfect balance and purity, where man and nature coexisted harmoniously. They meticulously designed and sculpted the lands to reflect their vision, giving birth to a new era of life and beauty. The 12 individuals were each distinct, with their own set of qualities and traits. They would give rise to the 7 races, fated to inhabit the world of Garadas indefinitely. The continent of Muninia is vast and diverse, home to a multitude of climates and terrains where different races such as the Illuminar, Elenar, and Dunnar once roamed before humans, elves, dwarves, and Haldar arrived.
The races came together in unity, serving the 7 kings and their thrones with honor and pride as they worked towards maintaining a peaceful and harmonious alliance. The north of Muninia is characterized by vast snowy landscapes, towering mountains, and expansive flat plains, home to the Dunnar or dwarves. It is the largest region in Muninia. The Dunnar is a very stubborn flock of creatures, only living inside mountain halls and not leaving for any reason other than trade or commerce. They are shorter, thicker, but stronger than the other races, living longer lives, but in smaller numbers. Western Muninia is primarily made up of grasslands, with a few remarkable mountain ranges scattered throughout. These lands are inhabited by the Illuminar, or the humans, and governed by a revered king. Central Muninia is home to the Haldar, perhaps not familiar to most, but these creatures are extremely smart and know more about the world around them than any other. They are also very obsessed with gold, though this varies between kinds. The Haldar are small creatures, nestled in small houses deep in the forests. Their love of wealth combined with the nature around them makes them extraordinary compared to the other races. The Elenar, or the elves, have decided to begin their lives in the southeastern part of the continent, living in great forests, tall mountains, and peaceful landscapes. They are like expected, tall beings with long hair, though not very kind of outsiders and not likely to show themselves anywhere but their home. They cling to their homes and seldom leave, but once they do, it won't be for any good reason other than war. Muninia is divided into 7 kingdoms, each with its own king. The Dunnar, Elenar, and Haldar are loyal to their respective rulers, while the humans have 4 kings, each distinct and unique in their leadership styles. The Dunnar lands lie to the north, with boundaries extending to the territories of the first and second human kings to the south and east. The Haldar reside in the central lands, sharing borders with humans on all sides, except for the elves in the southeast. Human kings reside along the coasts and shores of Muninia, constructing impressive cities and ports to facilitate trade and commerce. These 7 kings have been selected by the gods to lead their people because of their pure souls. Unfortunately, all good things come to an end, for the 7 kingdoms did not remain in peace forever. Something lured them from their path and set them to pit against each other. A certain weapon, powerful enough to rule all the lands of Muninia. There would no longer be needed 7 kings, but only one true ruler to dictate over all. This weapon brought many death and destruction on its path and led the 7 kings to wage war on each other. Thus war began, and the 7 kingdoms summoned their armies. Garadas was about to see a time of great darkness, never seen before. From treason to high treason, nothing wouldn't be done. Every act of evil that could possibly be committed happened in those years of war. Towns and villages fell and burned to ashes. Families got destroyed and separated, while the kings of power sought to seek the weapon that would give them ultimate power. Yet none of them could find it until one of the human kings had found the ancient wisdom and discovered its location. Thus he devised a plan to lure all the kings together in one place and take them out so that he could be the one to claim the weapon for himself. This man was King Ysmair. His corrupted mind had brought the darkness to the world, for the knowledge of the sword came from his tongue. The 6 kings would listen to all that he would tell them, hoping that they could overthrow him in one way or another. But eventually, Ysmair was the only one left standing. He obtained the weapon, and he took control of the world. Ysmair quickly became emperor of all the civilizations in Muninia, ruling them with pride and honor in his first years as supreme emperor of the empire. His empire grew larger and larger, expanding towns into cities and cities into metropolises. All followed his word, at least long enough for him to start the creation of a new city in the olden dwarven kingdom. Here he would build his new home, just outside of the mountain halls of its former king. This city would quickly be known as the largest city ever built in history, but it came with a toll. The emperor did not treat his workers with fairness and dignity. He used them as slaves to construct him his home, while he would sit and wait for it to finish. The power that his weapon would grant him grew to his head. The idea of being able to demand anything from anyone at all in the entire empire gave him too much control. He would order the building of statues of himself to immortalize his presence. As the day waned, Ysmair transformed into a malevolent ruler, bolstering his rule with an army of the undead, known as the Ned. With their unyielding loyalty, he became an unstoppable force, no longer reliant on anyone, not even to sustain his empire's dominance. He possessed the ability to traverse his cities and ensure their stability with only his own presence. The citizens had reached their limit as their emperor's actions became increasingly tyrannical and crossed all boundaries. After the fall of the 7 kingdoms, a tyrannical empire rose to power, sparking a rebellion determined to overthrow the emperor and his corrupt rule. As a result, a destructive civil war erupted in the city. As the rebellion continued to gain momentum, drawing in more disgruntled citizens of the empire, it eventually amassed a global force that surrounded the emperor. With each passing moment, the borders closed in tighter, bringing the rebellion ever closer to its target. The emperor sought sanctuary in his palace, only to find it breached, then tried retreating to his mountain fortress, which was also compromised. Left with no other choice, he fled to the road in hopes of finding refuge in the north. His demise occurred at the hands of a close associate, who was well known and ordered his assassination. The world plunged deeper into darkness following his passing. The rebellion's efforts to maintain the empire ultimately faltered, leading to its fragmentation back into the 7 kingdoms that had once stood united. Although Muninia currently lacks a king and leadership, it is not without hope for the future. The fate of this world is still undetermined. To find out what will happen to Garadas next, check out Menouer Darkness Rises on Amazon. This tale marks the start of a fresh alliance of kings, with a twist that sets it apart from its predecessors.
The evil empire fell after the death of the emperor, bringing the rise of a small rebellion kingdom, though it could hardly keep up after the intense rate of casualties during the war. The world emerged from its darkest era, the aftermath a stark reminder of the bloodshed and loss endured. The tyrannical regime of the emperor had finally been vanquished, leaving the remaining humans, elves, and dwarves to rebuild what once stood as the majestic 7 realms. However, the devastation wrought upon the continent left only remnants of its former glory, now tinged with shadows of destruction and malevolence. In order to prevent another devastating war, the three great races made the decision to separate and leave the once thriving cities abandoned. Individuals returned to simpler ways of life, living on small farms or pursuing fishing and mountain dwelling. The memory of the past conflict loomed large, shaping the future of the world and its inhabitants. The era where humans, elves, and dwarves reigned came to an end as the Second Age carried on without any noteworthy events for many long years, slowly stacking its numbers higher and higher.
In the distant west lies a mysterious continent unknown to many in Muninia. It is a place consumed by darkness, where dangerous lands are home to eerie creatures. While it was once a paradise, now only remnants remain. The 12 gods of Garadas once battled fiercely in the lands of Lamnadras, leaving behind a legacy of destruction. After a prolonged battle, the once beautiful land lay in ruins. Millennia later, life has gradually returned to the now desolate region. The collapse of the Menouer Empire had led refugees to seek sanctuary in the uncharted lands of Lamnadras. The followers of the tyrant Emperor Ysmair were not allied with the others, instead choosing to seek refuge across the seas to avoid their inevitable demise. It appeared to be a desperate attempt to save their cult from destruction. The remaining survivors, dubbed the last Menouerians, were tainted by the hatred and corruption that had characterized Ysmair's rule. Despite their lack of virtue, they had managed to outlive their leaders, now abandoned and feeble. Despite facing years of hardship and struggle, they eventually overcame their inner demons and persevered, giving rise to a new generation of Menouerians in the lands of Lamnadras. This marked the beginning of their promising future in their newfound homeland. A kingdom emerged under the rule of a wealthy and charming queen whose true intentions were far from noble. Despite her charismatic facade, she was selfish and greedy, surpassing even the notorious Ysmair in malevolence. The queen cruelly punished her subjects for minor transgressions, deriving pleasure from their suffering by publicly humiliating and even executing them. She ruled with a harsh iron fist, but to her dismay, the people despised her tyrannical ways. As the city grew in size, the population outnumbered the ruling class, leading to a brutal civil war. The queen mercilessly crushed the rebellion, ordering the execution of prisoners and randomly hanging civilians for any perceived slight. Her reign of terror only fueled the flames of dissent within her own kingdom. The kingdom was fed up with her words and forced her to take refuge in her castle. Once she was trapped inside with her people surrounding her, they stormed the castle and set it on fire. The evil queen's tyrannical reign over the Menouerians ended with her demise, leaving the once desperate empire in ruins. The tyrants of the world were believed to have lost all hope with her downfall. A new monarchy emerged, christening themselves Mevroue, a name symbolizing the birth of a vibrant civilization. Nobody in Muninia had any knowledge of the new kingdom in the west because they were unaware of the happenings in Lamnadras. The kingdom has witnessed the unexpected ascension of Cain, a king of mysterious origins who named himself as the ruler after the passing of the queen. Known as Cain, son of fire, his rapid rise to power remains unparalleled as he takes his place as the new monarch of Mevroue. He commissioned the construction of a grand city centered around a lavish palace where he could govern his realm with authority. Yet he chose to use his influence for benevolence rather than exploitation. His efforts improved the lives of his subjects, enhancing their living standards and diet. Over time, the city expanded into a bustling metropolis, defined by expansive canals and formidable stone fortifications. After the city was successfully protected behind the towering Mevroue wall, the king's focus shifted towards strengthening his rule. Over the span of decades, he insisted his subjects obey him and build a formidable army under his command to solidify his power. The army, once raised, brought only suffering to the people as Cain's rule turned tyrannical, demanding their obedience and turning them into slaves. However, this oppression led to a civil war erupting rapidly. The civil war unfolded within the city as rebels operated clandestinely in the sewers and makeshift camps. resisting the king's oppressive rule to aid the marginalized. Despite their efforts, the rebels were ultimately overpowered by the king's forces and met their fate on the gallows, one by one. The civil war lasted for years without the king suffering any losses. However, as the death toll continued to rise due to his actions, he became consumed by madness. After witnessing countless executions and acts of violence, the king ultimately took his own life by leaping from the tallest tower. His reign ended with his death, leaving uncertainty about whether the next king would bring about positive change. In the ancient world of Garadas during the Second Age, 7 kings were tasked by the gods to safeguard the 7 realms of Muninia and its civilizations. Each king possessed a divine power of leadership and purity, symbolized by an invincible heart. Their shared destiny was to bring peace and unity to the land, serving as pillars of harmony among the people of Garadas. The 7 kingdoms had a history of unity, yet underlying tensions persisted among the people. Despite their allegiance, the memories of the past still lingered from the first age of the world. The Dun'ar were known for their greed and reluctance to share with outsiders, except for participating in trade with other kings. While the Dwarven king held great respect for his peers, he was hesitant to reveal the happenings within his realm, as they were still coming to terms with the events of the First Age. The human king, residing in the southern Dun'ar kingdom of Ysmair, had repeatedly offended the Dwarven king for his perceived ignorance. Known as Ysmair, he was the king of men and the ruler of Westgard Kingdom. Despite ruling with dignity and honor, King Ysmair showed a lack of respect for other races, often scolding them for their customs post the Great War. While advocating for the sharing of wealth, his views were not universally accepted by the Elenar and Dun'ar, highlighting ongoing disagreements within his realm. King Ysmair's ambitious goal to bring change to the world is commendable, but his methods of closing relationships with Dun'ar and Elenar, while focusing on trading with human kingdoms, resulted in the impoverishment of the minor races over time. Ysmair embarked on a quest to find the ultimate weapon that would grant him everlasting power and domination over the world. His expedition led him to search for the perfect location to forge this unparalleled weapon of mass destruction. Ysmair discovered how to create the weapon without the other 6 kings knowing, but he still lacked the readiness to proceed with its development. Ysmair, disguised as a mysterious mage, crafted a cunning plan by dispatching 6 letters to the 6 kings, instructing them to embark on a quest to reach the pinnacle of the world and retrieve the weapon of power. Atop Garadas, the 7 kings convened and Ysmair revealed the legend of the sword, which required the sacrifice of kings with pure hearts for its crafting. None of the kings were willing to surrender their lives and instead chose to engage in battle, fighting fiercely at the temple atop the mountain. Ysmair emerged as the strongest warrior, defeating each king until only Ysmair remained. Despite being heavily wounded from previous fights, Ysmair faced Ysmair at the stone table and was unable to withstand the formidable strength of his opponent, ultimately falling to Ysmair's sword. Ysmair achieved his desire as the 7 kingdoms lay in ruin, placing him as the emperor of the entire realm.